Welcome. Thanks for coming. My name is Kevin Leinbach. I work here at ISU. I teach middle school design and high school business. Kind of where I'm coming from is I started swimming competitively 5 days a week when at age 8. Started playing water polo at age 10. Was a record holder in swimming at age 10. Went to regional swim meets and some really large events, but didn't really get a whole lot of emotional support or mental support on how to deal with that level of intensity. Swam through high school, played water polo in university, and played water polo in high school too, and university. I didn't really get into the mental game until then. My university just won NC2A Division I championships, first in the nation, but the following year was a rebuilding year. So most of the talent left, but what we were left with is a bunch of hard workers, and we kind of needed all the tools we could get. So there was a sports psychologist came in, did several sessions with us, and worked with the mental game. So I've been doing this for a couple of decades now. Working in personal development, I have trained as an executive coach, worked in business consulting. And so when I heard of this conference, I was like, oh, cool. I just read Stealing Fire. And the biohackers in Silicon Valley are now like trying to achieve the flow state. This frame of mind where things just come easy and you're kind of tuned in. We used to call it the zone, but now there's been a technical term. And I was like, oh, cool, let's do something like that because it's a $4 trillion industry, they're saying. And the Flow Research Collective is doing a pretty cool thing, a lot of stuff on it. They're working with Google and Deloitte and the US Navy SEALs. I was like, okay, cool. How can we bring that to us, where we're at now? Because they're working with high-level executives and elite-level athletes, a lot of extreme athletes, and we have teenagers with not a whole lot of experience, and oftentimes we only see them twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, for a couple hours. What can we do? And also, I only got 25 minutes, so I'll figure out. Try to give you guys some ideas about where I'm coming from, what I've used, and maybe get some takeaways for you guys to actually implement. So mindfulness has been a thing in schools for the last few years and has gained popularity. It is research proven that it's been useful to help for emotional stability, mental flexibility, a lot of good beneficial things. I do mindfulness in my classroom every period, every day at the start, because working in mental health and I've found that we just aren't trained to understand our inner selves, and if I can help the students achieve that in the classroom and in the field or on the court in sports, that practice of achieving that relaxation level and focus will help them. Because like everyone said, we're not just training athletes, we're training people, and these things generalize throughout their lives. So I'd like everyone to make a fist and squeeze it hard. This is how we go through life. Tense, flexed, and if you hold it long enough, it starts to get painful. But after a while, the pain goes away and you get numb. And this is where most of us are at. Numb. But if we mindfully are aware of that and relax that hand, you're like, oh, wow. Most of us don't even realize the tension that we hold. And this is the first step that I use with my students as far as just being mindful, being aware of what is going on inside their bodies. Being aware that we hold tension in our bodies and becoming aware of where they hold it individually. So that first step is just becoming awareness and relaxing that fist. Where are you tense? At the beginning of every session, because that's where it starts. I do sometimes, or you guys can also do progressive relaxation, which is a longer, maybe 20, 25-minute thing where you start at the toes and flex and relax and then work your way up the body through all the body parts to achieve and teach them experientially what it feels like to really be relaxed. Not super easy on a regular basis after school or in a practice time, but definitely mindfulness, relaxation, focus, 5 minutes, right? I used to, in the classroom, like, oh no, I don't want to spend all of that time. Mindfulness usually takes me about a couple minutes once they get used to it, and it's time well spent. It helps them focus, helps them relax, helps them get the rest of the day out of their head so that we can be present and focus on what we need to in the classroom or on the court or whatever. So another thing we can do is after we got them relaxed, we can just have them start to become aware of the sensations in their body or different body parts. How does your left elbow feel? What does your right pinky toe feel like? Just to get them aware of, like, wow, I never really thought, like, my right pinky toe, how does that feel? But it gets them introspective and becoming aware that they do have bodies. And in athletics, that's exactly what we're trying to help them achieve. It's that body awareness of what their bodies are doing and get them to control that. So if we're able to get them aware that they actually have body parts they don't think about, it'll help with the payoffs in our competitions and our practices. You can also extend that into how does it feel to make a great penalty kick? What does your body feel like going through the motions? Or swinging a bat? Or performing a free throw? When they're stay relaxed, visualizing that, they can feel themselves, imagine themselves to going through those motions, and it gives them that feedback, and it's really useful with learning. Visualizations have been around for years. They say that our mind can't tell the difference between a really good visualization and an actual experience. So if you continually do visualizations positively and performing the activity correctly, you learn. You don't have to go through the physicality of it. Okay? It's a really time-effective way that you can incorporate, even at the beginning of practice. Oh, hey, we're going to work on penalty shots today, or we're going to work on flip turns. Okay? Imagine yourself doing this well, perfectly, ideally, so that then when they go out and actually physically practice it in the practice later on, they've already done it in their head. It's not the first time they've done it. Shots, plays. A lot of teams have a bunch of different plays, and it's difficult for students to, like, okay, where am I supposed to be, here or here? Who am I covering? Right? Go through it and visualize it. Have them relax, go to state, and talk them through the play. This player goes here. This player goes here. Who are you? You're the center. Where do you go from here? Okay? To help them mentally get it before they actually physically do it. Reactions, playing defense, put them in scenarios, okay? 4 seconds left on the shot clock, or 4 in the game, you're covering, what do? They do this, how would you react? Put them in what-if scenarios. In this visualization frame, they're able to understand it better and internalize it better. Breathing. There's been centuries of research on breathing and how it affects our physiology and our mental state. There's a lot of scientific research being done currently about breathing and how it changes, how to achieve different levels of intensity or relaxation or whatever you want. A lot of it can be achieved through breathing. So here's some two pretty simple ones. The first one, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. That rate, after a couple minutes, actually trains the brain into the theta zone, which is good for relaxation and memory. I do this one at the beginning of class every time because relaxation and memory is exactly where I want it. Okay. Box breathing. U.S. Navy SEALs use that one to regulate their anxiety and stress. That one is 5 seconds in, 5 seconds hold, 5 seconds out, 5 seconds hold. So it's a box. 5 in, 5 hold, 5 out, 5 hold. That, over time, regulates our body into a useful zone so that we're not so stressed. We can still operate effectively. That would be good for during the game or practice. When they're stressed out, last quarter, bring everybody in, do some box breathing, couple rounds, get them regulating and oxygenating their body and their mind. Because a lot of times under stress, we get tight, we get rigid, and we breathe with the top half of our lungs and they don't fully expand. Oxygen's good. The more they can get, the better. Follow through. Getting this to become a habit. Pre-performance routines, whether it's the day of a tournament. I was at swim meets all day Saturday, all day Sunday. Like, how do you get up? How do you eat breakfast? How do you hydrate throughout the day? How do you eat lunch and sometimes dinner throughout the day? Because your competition extends the entire day. Having a plan of how that's going to work. How do you arrive for practice? What's the way to get yourself in the frame of mind for a good practice? As coaches, how do we want them in practice? Help them make a plan. We come in, we get dressed, we come back, we come on the court, on the pool deck, or wherever we're at, and have them establish a routine. Because we're creatures of habit. If we get them to establish a habit of peak performance, they can induce that to themselves through this routine. In a game, before a free throw, in the last seconds. Okay? Those are all things that we can prepare students to do beforehand. Was it John Wooden who said winning just doesn't happen? Yeah? We plan it out, and that's our job as coaches to help them plan. We do the physicality a lot. The mental game's not always focused upon. But it's about gaining awareness. Relaxation, stress relief, lifelong skill. Performing under pressure, many jobs have that too, or require that of us. We are helping them learn and practice these skills that are generalizable throughout the rest of their lives. Not just, this might be the only time or the best shape they're ever going to be in their lives, because when they're not forced to be in PE, not so much in athletics, it's more of a choice, but when they move on to university, they might not ever play again a sport till maybe in their 40s or 50s when they finally I'm out of shape, I need to do something. Okay? But they have this in their head. They have these skills in their toolbox to use. So here's just a brief rundown of some options. They all start with that relaxation and breathing. I think it's an optimal part that stress relief, especially we have grade 11 and 12s in the DP program that are under extreme amount of stress, in addition to their athletic endeavors, that stress relief is a killer in adults. So if we can help them achieve those things, stress relief, focus with that 5 inhale, 5 exhale, and then do a few minutes of sensations. Walk them through different scenarios. 5 minutes. If I said that, we waste more than 5 minutes getting water. In some practices, it's 5 minutes well spent. Or on another day, relaxation breathing, take them through some visualizations. On a new play, or you want to focus on something for the day, spend a few minutes at the beginning of practice getting them visually primed for that. So when they see it, when they do it later in practice, they're already there. And if you want to spend a little bit more time, do some progressive relaxation. There are a bunch of videos out there. You can even just find YouTube and just play it for them. You don't have to take them through it. But there's plenty of stuff out there to help them gain that awareness. Thoughts? Need a couple minutes left. Questions?
Yeah, just before I run off. I found that this was really helpful. I coached wrestling in the States, and it's a very physical, grinding, demanding sport. And then just before the postseason, we would always take some time at the end of practice to visualize, okay, we know the gym that we're going into for the tournament. We're going to leave school a little bit early. You've done that before. We'd lay them down, shut off the lights, and then get them breathing, and then just talk them through, okay, you're getting the bell rings or the announcement comes on, and just like any sensation, right? You're going to hear Miss Harder talk on the PA, wrestling athletes, please go to the bus, and you're going to go get your stuff. And then so they've already done the regional tournament 5 times before we ever got to the actual regional tournament. And there were so many times and so many instances where we wrestled above our belt. Right, we wrestled better than we were supposed to, and I think part of that was just our kids were confident and ready. They weren't anxious and scared. They'd done it before.
We're psyched out because of the overwhelming. It's awesome. Has anybody else used anything similar?
Well, there's actually, just to be quick, there's 2 things. We're talking about visualization. There was an Irish boxer called Michael Carruth, and before he qualified for the Irish Olympic team, which he won gold medal, he was injured. And he couldn't actually spar. So what he did was he had a mental coach that sat him down and said, this is the guy you're fighting to qualify for the Olympic team, and I want you, this is how he moves. They'd watch video and they would watch the culture and they'd walk, and he said when going into that fight, it felt like his opposition punches were slow, because he had imagined it all the time and he knew how to move and all that. You know what I mean? There was obviously a talented boxer who won an Olympic gold medal, but still, it helped. And just what yourself and CD were saying there, we always, for rugby, back home in Ireland, we took it insanely seriously, and the school was good. We produced current internationals for the Irish rugby team and stuff like that, you know. And whenever we had before cup games would come up, so the season would be about 6 months long, well actually 9 months long, but it would be friendlies for 6 months, and the last 3 months were the months that counted. For cup games, the lads would get off school, and you know, if the game was on a Sunday or something like that, you'd go on a Thursday and go through the whole thing in the stadium that the game would be played, you know, and everyone would be written down, exact time, is exactly to the point where we stop here, we get water, you know, in the warm-up and stuff, the whole thing was planned.
It's already practiced.
Yeah, it's just when I saw you say, I was like, okay, yeah, obviously, you know, the whole thing was planned out. They got a booklet per game, you know what I mean, so. Yeah, couldn't agree more.
And so as coaches, we can spend a few minutes helping them prepare properly, not only physically, but mentally too. Yeah.
I know, I like the breathing box. And I never really thought about it that way, in which to instruct our kids that breathing routine.
Yeah, give them some tools to do it, to regulate themselves, to regulate their own.
And that helps us too.
Yeah. When I do mindfulness, I'm like, in classroom. I'm like, you can do this before a test in any other class. Just walk in, put your bag down, spend a few minutes or seconds, 30 seconds or less. Take a couple deep breaths, focus your brain. Okay, I'm in science now. Think of some science. And it helps with transition, helps with focus, and it's like a muscle. The more we practice, the easier it gets. And they can carry it with them. Good stuff.
All right, well,